I think is a good pivot here, the bond market. So from Bloomberg Business, not opinion this time, the 5% bond market means pain is heading everyone's way. The impact will be felt in everything from shoppers' pockets to company balance sheets, a lot of which we have spoken about on this show. Not so long ago, families, businesses, and governments were effectively living in a world of free money. And by free money, we mean that money was so cheap, the cost to borrow was so cheap, you could go essentially buy anything you wanted to and have access to tons of liquidity because anything you invested in would return more than you borrowed. So if you arbitraged it, you were going to make more putting that money to work than you were when you borrowed it.
Exactly.
That's essentially free money.
Mm-hmm.
The Fed's benchmark interest rate was 0. Fed funds was 0, while central banks in Europe and Asia even ran negative rates to stimulate economic growth after the financial crisis and through the pandemic.
Yeah, so when I read that, I thought maybe it was worth explaining a little bit. Sometimes central banks will have a negative rate to really force the economy to go out there and lend their money. People go out to borrow, and more activity out there in the markets to really try to stimulate the economy. I believe that means that the central bank is now charging banks to park their money there, so they're actually losing money.
Correct.
So it almost forces them out to have to lend their money out.
Yeah, so one of the things that banks and other large financial institutions like Apple across the world have to do is they have to manage their cash over time. Now, a lot of people were saying, like, well, the treasuries, the bond markets, well, everyone's going to pull their money out because they're so worried what's going to happen with the government. No, the larger companies have too much cash to go into pure cash. They have to go into things like treasuries and some of these more complicated, secure financial instruments that pay more interest rate right now.
Right.
There's just no way they can go all to cash. And that's a different economic conversation for a different time.
Right.
Those days now look to be over, especially after the 30-year Treasury bond yields punched through 5% this very week. And we are recording this. It's Monday, the 9th of October. So that's a pretty big pivot. The last time that happened was in 2007.
Right.
Right before the Great Recession. And you're going to hear a lot of similarities to that in the rest of the show. Mm-hmm. The shift has real-world consequences upending everything from housing to mergers and acquisitions, both topics we've talked about at length on the show. We think housing is going to have some pricing challenges in the next year. We think that mergers and acquisitions are in a bit of a slow light period before it ramps up again. Cost of funds being very, very expensive right now, and merger and acquisition activity is going to slow until companies are on the brink or can sell for cheap.
Right.
And the impact will be felt from shoppers' pockets to the company balance sheets, like we've talked about. An earnings recession, we believe, is on the horizon, or we're currently experiencing right now. So all the things that we've talked about, and this article pissed me off on some level because you and I have been speaking about this stuff for probably 2 years now.
Exactly.
2 years we've been talking about this coming, and yet the market is now starting to just catch on it. And I'm not saying this because I'm trying to say that we're smart or intelligent. It's just frustrating that so many of these things were obvious, but people were in denial. Mm-hmm. But then I started to remember I was working in 2007. I was working in 2006, the lead up. I remember what the rhetoric was like, and people were in absolute fucking denial leading up to the Great Recession too. So it shouldn't come as a surprise to us. It has been a prolonged period of time. 14 years, a long period of time. But this type of psychological behavior, the behavioral economics is playing out now, and this denial of it is not uncommon. Mm-hmm. It's not uncommon. What I have seen is a palpable die down. I don't know if you guys have seen this, Haroon. You're on social media a lot for the other gig. Have you guys noticed a pretty palpable die down of people that are realtors promoting the economy is going to always go up and things are great? I've seen a pretty significant
Yeah, and I think I've been seeing more and more posts on how difficult it is right now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I've actually seen more and more posts, them speaking about the Fed, right? And having those types of conversations, and I think they're looking for someone to point the blame at, right? Not understanding that maybe this is a necessary evil, you know what I mean? But I don't know. What about you, Odun?
Yeah, no, same thing. I haven't seen a lot of posts from realtors as much lately. A lot actually from the Texas area, but nothing in California as much as I used to in the past.
Yeah, and I should point out that there's also a couple things at play when you look at people talking about economic data. A lot of the economists have large person financing behind them. Mm-hmm. or large corporate financing behind them. And a great corollary that gives you a different example from a different place, so nobody gets sensitive and gets their feelings all emo and shit, is that when you talk about scientific studies, generally speaking, people pay for them, right?
Yes.
And generally speaking, it's people who want a type of result.
Right.
But if you're a scientist, you might not have a bias, but you got to keep the money coming in so you can continue to do your research.
Exactly.
So what do? You find the results that work for your buyer of that data.
It's a very shady game.
Now, you might be able to use that data other places. So a great book on this is Sugar, Salt, Fat, which talks about how those three ingredients have been added to food for the last several decades, which are how our diets have effectively gone to shit. And why some of the things were being pumped into us. Ironically, today, the state of California banned, I think, 5 chemicals which prevent things like Skittles from being sold in California moving forward.
You told us that right before the show. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's kind of stunning. And this on the heels of Japan doing it, too. You can't even buy Frosted Flakes in Japan now.
No kidding.
It's considered toxic, yeah.
It's interesting how something could be toxic for one country, but not toxic enough for us.
You'd be surprised. A lot of what we sell for human consumption in the United States is not considered suitable consumption in like other countries.
I know. I remember I was reading an article about this once. Like some factories, they allow for a certain level amount of rat feces.
Oh, yeah, sexy.
A certain amount is okay. Once it gets past a certain threshold, no longer okay.
Oh, so Haroon pulled it up. Top 8 American foods banned in other countries.
Ooh, let's go.
Whew. Number 1, instant stuffing and mashed potatoes. Come on, man. That shit's amazing.
When it comes in a little package?
Making stuffing with Kraft stovetop stuffing takes a mere 5 minutes, but the popular mix contains the preservatives BHA. I can't say that word, but it ain't good for you. And BHT, I also don't know it, which have raised concerns due to suspicions of potential carcinogenic properties and their potential to hinder blood clotting.
Wow.
The fuck? Skittles. Eating Skittles can be nostalgic, but you're also partaking in a handful of additives that have been banned in numerous other countries, and now California. Number 3, no surprise here, Twinkies and Little Debbie Swiss rolls.
Didn't I tell you to stop eating the Twinkies, bro?
Dude, I love dick-shaped food.
It's
not me. It's just the
Anything
shape.
with a good filling, right?
With the filling, right? That's.
See, you guys got to make it sexual. I just like the shape. Okay? Number 4, Pillsbury biscuits. Fuck, all the good stuff. Number 5, bread with potassium bromate.
What?
Number 6, high fructose corn syrup.
Easy.
Number 7, American pork.
This is, yeah, see, you can't be having pork.
In the U.S., cuts
haram.
of pork... This is not a Muslim thing, okay? In the U.S., cuts of pork tend to be much larger than in other countries of the world. That's because American pork contains growth hormone. Oh, so they're buff pigs. One notable growth hormone, racto, whatever the fuck that is, often employed in pig farming, has been banned in numerous countries.
Chlorinated chicken, number 8? What the hell, man?
In the U.S., the practice of washing chicken in chlorine is done to mitigate potential spread of foodborne illnesses, particularly salmonella. It's not just used to wash the chicken either. Chlorine can also be found in produce, canned vegetables, and other meats and fuck, man.
God, man, yeah, just.
Well, there goes my night.
Yeah, just. Well, luckily you shop at Whole Foods, so you're probably good there.
I don't know, man. We were there earlier today, but yeah.
Right.
Jesus.
So maybe just to do a quick little recap on bonds and what they are, because I know we're about to get into a really heavy bond conversation here, right? So
bond and jobs, yeah.
Bond and jobs, right? So your bond yield is the return the yield on the bond is the return the investor gets if they hold the bond to maturity, right?
Bond is a debt instrument. So basically you're giving somebody a loan.
Yeah, you're giving, and think of it like the most common one that people discuss all the time are like the government bonds, right?
Because they're the most secure.
You're giving a loan to the government now. It could be anywhere from 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. Where all that means is whatever year period you select to purchase, that's how long they can to pay you back. And let's say you buy a 10-year bond for $1,000, right? Mm-hmm. And interest and the yield on that is 4%. All that means is you're going to get $40 a year. Every year for 10 years, and at the end of the 10 years, you're going to get your $1,000 back as well.
Now, where it gets complicated is, let's say they issue new bonds the very next year.
Yeah.
A 10-year bond at 5%.
Wow. Now, when that happens, when the yield goes up, meaning the rate of return, The value of your bond goes down.
The value of the 10-year bond at 4%, it's now worth less on the open market if you wanted to sell it before maturity.
Yeah, and that was a key, I think, point that I forgot to neglect to mention. When you buy that 10-year bond, you can sell it at any time, right? You don't have to hold it until maturity.
I got your back, bro.
Yeah,
thank
you, bro.
You look at me all paused, like scared.
Well, I said my point. That's it.
I was letting you go.
Yeah. No.
You got a question.
You had a flow. Now you okay?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
All right, well, I have a question.
Got full Mitch McConnell on me for a minute, man. I freaked out. Go ahead, Haroon.
Haroon.
Oh, come on, man.
He doesn't even know how to say his name anymore.
No, I told you I'm going to say it differently every time.
That's to start the show. For the rest of the show, give me some respect.
Yeah, put some
respect on my name. I got you.
Birdman.
I know. I got
Birdman.
you. Yeah. You don't know about that.
He knows.
You don't know.
Odin, do you know?
Huh?
See?
I'm supposed to be a pop culture guy.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be like sports and pop culture. That's fine. Go ahead.
All right, I know you guys have addressed this in the past, but like, how does the rise in treasury bond yields affect like everyday things for Americans?